Hello, Reese from the Point Music Podcast thingy. Got an amazing podcast episode with this one here. We speak with Mish from Torizon, Bisbane band, alt rock, heavy alt rock. They've released a new track, Martyr, and it is killer. I do have to get a heads up. We do talk about certain aspects that may be triggering, so please be aware of this. We do talk about DV and CPTSD and that, so if you may be offended by that or triggered or basically affected, do keep that in mind. With that done, please do enjoy this chat with Mish from Torizon. And rolling. Mish from Torizon, how are we this evening, today?
Good. I'm pretty good. I am relaxed. Mid-work trip right now, so tonight's one of the nights off, which is exciting. So I'm a bit chilling.
What do you do for work? Can I ask that?
Um, Many things. So I work for full time. I work and it's work from home full time, which is great. I work for the Australian Association of Gerontology. They do research, connection with policy and advocacy for aging well in general, making it accessible, and with a pretty big focus on the Indigenous Australian population.
Wow.
So I do that.
Yeah.
That pays my bills for the band.
Yeah.
And then I freelance for Good Intent,
Yeah.
artist services, as well as doing some copywriting for a couple other publicity services.
So wait, you don't make money full time from playing music?
No. I also work in retail. I also do that
Me
a couple of times
Me too.
a month. Yeah, like it's great.
I sell gemstones
You
for a
know,
living, mate. So yeah.
exactly. Like how else are you going to release music in 2023 in cost of living crisis, right?
Oh no, the streams pay the money for me. Yeah, definitely.
So much money.
So I could pay a mortgage with my streams.
No, this is not a fancy hotel room. This is my house.
Yeah.
All for music.
All right. So congrats on Martyr. It's a banger.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
I don't know why I've always thought this of you guys, and I've listened to your stuff all the time, but every time I see in that, like, Torizon is releasing new stuff, I always think that you're heavier than what you actually are, and you're not. You're alt rock, and I always think that
Hmm.
you're borderline into like the alt metal and almost like metal, but no, you're not. You're just epic alt rock, and alt rock is such
Oh,
a wide spectrum of things. I mean, what I do with mules is alt rock, and we're nowhere near what
yes.
you do, but it was still under that category. Do you get people?
Also, I dig mules. I
Oh,
dig mules.
thank you very
Yeah.
much. Yeah. We should do a gig.
Yes, please.
Let's do
We'd
it.
love to.
Yeah, cool. Um, that's sidetracked. Anyway, um, what I was meaning to say is that do you often get this confusion from when you release stuff, or from people that haven't heard you, and you're going for the pitches and whatnot with new releases? Do you get pegged, or do you, like, I know this has happened with mules a few times because heaven forbid we have two U's in our name that makes us sound we're heavier than what we actually are. You get lumped into a bill that's just got this insanely heavy lineup, and you're just sort of gone,
Yeah.
yeah, we play alt rock, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. We do to a degree. Except like a lot of the newer stuff that we're writing the one that is we have a new EP that's written,
Hmm.
that leans quite heavily, pun intended, into the metalcore category.
Ooh,
I think it's we definitely get in the weird spot where sometimes we are not heavy enough for metal,
yeah,
but we're too heavy for alt rock
yeah,
or like rock in general. So we definitely get placed in that weird in between, but there's a lot of beautiful people in that in between that appreciate us. That works, and I guess in a way it's kind of an advantage because we've played gigs like the recent tour with Orpheus Amiga and Triple Kill was the heaviest lineup ever, and we were kind of the palate cleanser,
hmm,
and it's easier to get recognized in that capacity.
yeah. Okay, so an example being that Mules ended up playing. This is going back probably. This is before COVID. We ended up playing a metal festival in Maryborough,
Mm-hmm.
and we stood out like a sore thumb in that lineup. And I remember distinctly us playing at around about 7 o'clock at night and playing on the big stage in the back room, and we cleared the room, and they
Oh
all
man.
went and saw this other like brutal band that was playing in the front room. However, the sound dude was just frothing on us because all he was here all day was and just like full heaviness. And all of a sudden we come out with some alt rock, and he's like, yes.
Yeah, finally. Vocals where I can really have a ton of effects and do some cool things. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely happened to us too. I'm not going to say like, oh my God, it never happens. It's definitely happened. But I think, a lot of times it has ended up being more on the positive side. And also like, it's kind of cool to be challenged that way. I think it's kind of fun to be, oh, cool. Well, we are with a heavier band or whatever. So we play the heavier songs. We are changing our tuning to from drop D to drop B, just because the stuff we're writing now, that it's so much heavier. So hopefully we'll fit into those lineups a lot better. See, but it's definitely, I mean, I love it if there's a bunch of alt rock bands or like a diverse lineup. That is probably my favorite, and I think that's where we fit the best.
Yeah, I reckon there should be just like a festival of just diverse bands that sort of sit on the fringe between alt rock and metal, and just let people figure out what it is.
I don't know. It feels like we're the misfits in the sea of misfits, right?
I mean, it's hard enough with the heavy genre, like the heavy scene as it is. It's so divided with people dedicated to like they only listen to metalcore, or they only listen to like death, or like black metal, or they only listen to new metal. Or it's you don't get that with indie or roots or hip hop. I think the heavy genre, the heavy scene itself is such a weird scene. And hard to be a part of unless you're wearing battle vests all the time, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. I get that. I definitely can relate to that for sure. We've coined a term called pedalcore, which is like pop metalcore.
I'll go with that.
The newest stuff that's coming out is very much leaning towards that. So much more synth heavy, very much Bad Omens kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So that's when I'll make pedalcore official, but I didn't want to make it until, because then people are going to be like, wait, no, you're alt rock, what do you mean?
Well, because you do have a pop sensibility to the song structures easily. Like, I mean, I do the same sort of thing when I'm writing, but I like that. That's a cool term. Stick with it.
Thank you. Came up with that on tour because we were all bored, and it was pretty fun. Three of us were just super silly together, so we make silly games, and then one of the things that came out of it was pedalcore. I'm keeping it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the touring situation basically is coming up with weird names for genres. We don't do cocaine and massive amounts of...
No. We sleep. I nap.
We're all on our
just
phones.
Do stupid stuff. Yeah, exactly. And then, Luke was... Because we were all staying together in one place, and Luke was taking Snapchats and putting dumb filters on me, and then Snapchatting it to me. I'm like, we're in the same room, bro. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And like we came up with ABCs, but they were like new ABCs. They were all threats. Just threats. So there was just like dumb stuff like that to pass the time because you're driving for so long. And we're all in my car, which is a tiny hatchback.
Oh no.
3 of us, gear and a merch.
Okay, so 3 of us. So that'd be you, drummer, and guitarist, right? So you do backing tracks.
Yes, we do backing tracks for bass and some synth. So any synth material that comes in.
Yeah, stabbing me right in the heart, mate. If you look behind me and seeing all those basses right there, just hearing that,
we're looking for a bass player. We're not against that. It's just that, because it was just when we've been writing together, it's been going so well that we haven't actively started looking just yet. But yeah, Luke plays bass. He's a bassist first before he's a guitarist, so he tends to just record all the tracks, and I'm really sorry to be offensive.
Fair enough. That's one thing I did. I don't know. Did you go to Big Sound this year?
I did for a little bit, yes.
Did you?
I was mid fertility treatment. I donated eggs, so I couldn't stay there throughout the whole thing. As
you do.
Oh, I know.
Well, one of the things that I brought home, because I only went on one night, and one of the things I brought home from that is the heavy use of autotune live on vocals nowadays, which when it's used as an effect or part of the thing, yeah, cool. But when it's used for just correcting pitch, I don't know about that. And secondly, the lack of bass players and them using artists using backing tracks, but they'll still happily use a live drummer or a guitarist and a keyboard player that just bypass the bass player. And I'm looking, and there was a few bass players in the crowd just going, "What the fuck?"
Man, And I think for me personally, it has to be the right people. Like when the chemistry going so well, it's like, do we involve one extra person who could potentially,
Yeah,
you know?
politics and bands
Yeah,
suck. Yeah.
yeah. That's been the sort of, I guess, the reason why we decided to just proceed as a three-piece and run bass tracks.
Mm.
Um, because next year, once the EP's out, then we can actively sort of be like, then we'll actively look. And hopefully by that time somebody's like, hey, I like you. Do you need a bass player? And I'm like, yes, please.
So that means
And are you mentally
Yep.
stable? I mean, I'm not,
Hey,
but like financially
most
stable, like
bassists
all the
usually
things.
are. It's usually drummers that we have issues that can be like a little bit. You're right.
Vocalists, big egos, let's be honest.
That is well, okay. In the point of mules, guitarists, we don't have one because of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm. But we don't use tracks. I just split the signal. It's easier. So
Yeah.
you'd be running in ears and that. So I'm always curious because do you know the band? I'm sorry, Tamina. I know your band.
Okay.
Flint Effect. They used to be called Flint
Flint
Effect,
Effect.
but they're
Yeah.
called something else now.
Now they're called Binary Pulse, I think.
Yeah.
Binary Code.
Binary Code, yeah.
Pulse.
But I remember seeing them at the Back Room in Brisbane. We played with them.
Yeah.
And like I've been with bands before and watched them like with in the case of like when I was in Barefoot, we toured with Catchify and they're all in ears and you go side to stage and it's kind of weird that you can only hear certain elements because of the fact that guitars and bass and that sort of stuff is basically going through front of house and through in ears, but there's no on-stage noise apart from the drums and a bit of vocal, right?
Yeah.
And horns. In the case of Flint Effect, it was just drums, and I went side of stage listening, and it was just insane. So I'm assuming because you're on Click and that, so you'd be running in ears. How's the feeling of isolation for you guys on the stage?
I prefer it, and that's just me probably being a vocalist. I
Right.
prefer that because when it's really isolated, I don't have to project as much. I can do it in a healthy manner, and I'm not like completely exhausting my voice by the end of the set.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Although when I was in bands that didn't have in ears, there is a good vibe to just hearing everything and not being guided by a click and just really rocking out. That like I definitely it's not the same as that, but I think I like it because of the precision.
Yeah.
It gives me precision. I know I will be on time. I know when I'm coming in. And also I like how I can control how I can. It's just funny because how vocalists usually get dubbed as like control freaks. I'm like how I can control my levels and have it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And also like what I hear, what I don't want to hear. So I feel like I'm a better performer for it.
Right.
But I definitely miss just letting loose and being able to rock out without having to think about all these things. But I think I'm like kind of getting better at being able to sort of get in a zone where it's the best of both worlds. But I'm like only just getting there now.
So when you rehearse, you're actually doing it through in-ears as well?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Wow.
We kind of have to because we want to like just because three-piece, right?
Yeah. Wow.
But our rig is like super nice and easy to set up, so that makes it super chill.
Okay, so I do remember seeing Dark Cell and their setup was insane with the amount of like because they all had their own personal iPad monitors and that sort of stuff on stage too, so they could adjust their own personal levels in that. Plus, they have their own in-ear rig, which was a massive rack. Do you guys go to that level?
We are to a degree, so we definitely have our individual levels that we control.
Yep.
Using the iPads or phones or whatever. It's like I think it's like there's you've got like the basic setup, so you've got the digital mixer, you've got the IEMs coming in and out, you've got the splits happening, and then you kind of just control the levels. It's how much extra you kind of build on that. So we are on probably, I wouldn't say we're the basic, kind of like the next level up. This rig was specifically made for the next, like to keep for the next 5-10 years, and specifically made to keep sound guys happy. So it's super easy. I even bring my XLRs, like, mate, done. So I would say it's like kind of like the next level up in between sort of like super techie and like real basic.
Yeah, I love looking at the I love seeing the look of sound guys' faces, and they usually turn white when you rock up with a whole in-ear monitor set up and everything.
Yeah, and we're fully digital because like we use like everything's like digital amp simulators and stuff like that. Yeah. So kind of makes it easy to tour.
Yeah,
you can throw everything in a car. And it's fine.
Even the kit. Oh.
Well, most of the times when you're touring, it's the backline, right?
Yeah.
But just like snares and like consumables.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Martyr then.
Yeah, sorry, it's just two musos chatting.
This is what usually happens, man. Like I can tell you what, when I had the interview with Cav Templey and I stopped fanboying for a little bit and started talking to him about basses, and he was talking about his eyes lit up. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about your music now. We're talking about that. He's like, yes.
Yeah.
Two bass
Yeah,
players talking
exactly.
nerdy shit. Anyway, I do
Yeah.
want to talk about Martyr and how it came about. So please
Sure.
divulge.
So how much do I want to bump people out? I'll go for it.
Oh,
Okay.
go for it.
So it's always funny. Like I find it very hard to balance out because for me, it's fine. I've been through it. I've had therapy. I'm okay at a good place. But things make people sad. And I always find it interesting, like how to, like the people pleaser in me is like, please don't feel bad. I'm good. But also being authentic about the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So narcissism has quite a through line in my entire life. Being raised with narcissistic, neglectful parents with like a ton of chaos and child abuse and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And to then really being primed for that, looking for that conditional love and looking to constantly please the people that don't have my best interest in mind. And really going the miles, ignoring all of the red flags, all of that. So this particular song came out of, I have been, and I'll be honest about it, in about 2 deviant relationships.
Wow.
So first time around, I didn't quite learn, or I guess I wasn't in a space where I was able to fully see what it was, because you have to process the trauma before you can get to that point. And I don't think I was ready at that time to process the gigantic amount of trauma.
Yep.
And I didn't have the right trauma therapist either at the time, so it kind of they weren't creating a space to sort of get to that point. So, the second one sort of came out. There was a moment where I was just like, oh, everything is my fault, and the other person is not taking any accountability. And knowing that this is no longer serving me and it's probably not the best thing for me, but your trauma brain saying, no, but this is what love is. This is how it is. This is what you grew up with. So that those kind of early childhood programming kicking in and being like, no, but you should stay. And so that moment of grappling with the confusion and working through that and still trusting myself. And it was quite scary because you're going through your childhood programming and you're doing opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. In your brain. So that was quite terrifying. So this came out of like a particular therapy session, which I found out about the infidelity that was happening. And that was like my sort of reason to leave. But at the same time, felt like a sense of relief, like, okay, I can be out now. So this was a therapy session where I processed all of that and kind of wrote the music, the lyrics after that for a completely different song, by the way. Completely different song. And then when Lou came up with Martyr instrumentation, we wrote the song together, just mucking about, singing. I was like, oh, we need some lyrics. What about this? And I just started singing the melody and I was like, oh, it works. Let's keep it. So, yeah.
I wasn't ready for that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Like I have to, yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, it's just been such a huge through line in my life that I wasn't really... I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm not a lyrics person. Okay. Admittedly, like I even get the lyrics of my own bands wrong. And I have done for a very long time, and it takes me like multiple listens. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, man.
It takes me multiple listens to actually understand what the actual vocalist is trying to portray, and if I haven't got a heads up about, basically, I do have notes here, and I just completely fucking forgot about them.
It's okay.
I do have people close to me that have gone through very similar sort of shit. Cool. So, let's take a second.
Yeah.
So,
you're doing pretty good, man.
Yeah. It's heavy therapy for you, in a sense that, well, one is free, basically, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you find it's kind of cathartic in a way, doing it this way, and every time you perform this?
Yes, I guess pre-trauma therapy, I was quite unaware of. I had a general idea of what I was writing, but I would look at songs from back then and I'd be like, oh my God, I was like my subconscious or my child self was singing about this particular like a thing that happened that I hadn't processed it to the point where I didn't have any recollection of things like that.
Mm.
So pre-trauma therapy, that was like quite a sad thing for me to like realize, oh my God, I was thinking about this. That's so sad. Like, so you feel sad for that child. But now, ADHD. What was your question?
As, mate, you're talking to someone else with ADHD as well. So this is kind of squirrel.
It's cathartic. Yes, it is. It is cathartic now because now exactly because now it's more of an like I go with what I always am honest in my songs, and I don't shy away from just like being authentic about exactly what happened sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm just intentional. So if I'm feeling something, I would write it down. I would write like, because I play keys, so I would just like come up with a melody or whatever, and keep that for whenever I want to use it. Or sometimes I don't use it. But when I'm really like when we're working through like I've written the lyrics and whatnot, and then we're working through the song structure and we're like fine tuning all that. That's when I'm really intentional about it, and that's when it becomes less of a catharsis, but more of a fine-tuning a project.
Yeah.
But once it's out, like the lead up to release is when I really, really feel quite a lot of anxiety, quite a lot of like PTSD. I have complex PTSD. So complex PTSD symptoms will kick in where I'm just like feeling like I shouldn't do this, and maybe I'll get in trouble for it, or somebody's going to punish me. So those things cycle through.
Yep.
Probably the week of releasing, and then once it's out, it's like a huge catharsis. Then it's like the real catharsis.
That's interesting.
That it's out and I'm not punished for it.
So like the whole release, the campaign thing is almost like a trigger effect for you, complex PTSD.
Oh, 100%.
So that was probably because of the anxiety that comes with it, right? Sorry for people listening to this, and we're getting a therapy session, both of us here. So so it would be the anxiety, the build up, and I'm guessing you would be getting all the intrusive thoughts in your head, not the really super bad ones, but the ones that are coming through that basically say, no, this is shit, or this is not going to do well, all that kind of stuff, right?
That doesn't happen. That is a forever thing in my brain, but it stops once it's recorded.
Oh, dude. Awesome.
Yeah, it stops once it's recorded, because then I put my trust in, just as somebody who's worked in publicity and stuff, and you've supported me, so thank you. That was very sweet, and I've always remembered that. I sort of have seen, like having worked in the industry, I kind of know that sometimes you can have the best song in the world, you just can't control what happens.
Yeah.
Or you can have the worst song in the world and you could have an amazing campaign. So the quality of the music plays a major part, but that I know how much I trust the people I engage for publicity and stuff. I hire them for their responsibilities, and I trust that they'll do that, and then it's in their hands. And whatever happens. So that process stops. Like that in a monologue of like, I suck, why should I? That is very active in my brain and very loud during the writing process.
Yeah.
But when it comes to releasing the stuff, it typically, there's definitely a sliver of like, oh, maybe people won't like it. But it's quite easily, most of the time, it's usually like intrusive thoughts of things I've done wrong, or like things I'm like, you know what I mean? Those kind of things would come up because that's my PTSD symptom of like, oh my God, just be hyper vigilant now because you're going to get punished or you're going to get hurt and all that kind of stuff. A lot of time, like with these particular two songs, I'm so sorry, I cut you off.
No, go, keep going.
These two songs, I was to a degree concerned about my safety.
Wow.
Because I didn't name the person, but I'm sure the person, if they hear the song, would know it's about that. So there was times where I was kind of concerned about my safety, but it's so far so good.
I've got so many tabs open up in my head after this. But what I wanted to actually get to, bringing back to what you was actually the lyrical content of it, what I'm finding with a lot of releases coming my way, particularly from the heavy genre, particularly from the female-fronted heavy genre, is it's very similar sort of stuff coming through. And it's great because it's a voice for these particular like artists to do this, either if they're singing from personal experience or from experiences that they've from people close to them. I mean, the Australian industry itself right now in the heavy thing has got some amazing female fronted acts. I mean, obviously you got Red Hook just absolutely smashing things.
Love Emmy.
Emmy Mack is just, she's on another fucking level now. And I remember meeting
Oh,
her.
she's unreal. And she's so nice. I'm like,
Yep.
why you gotta be so good? It's so nice.
And you got Stan Atlantic, you got yours truly, you got the last Martyr that I reviewed earlier this week, and they're like even like some of the sort of more punkier stuff too, and they're all singing very, very similar sort of songs. And I think we should be paying more fucking attention to this shit. Hey.
I think you froze for a second, so I missed the question.
I said I think we should be paying more fucking attention to this shit.
I think so. I think a lot of it also, and I'm really grateful that I'm in the generation that I am because there have been a lot of strong women that have created the space where I get to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure, like, previous generation, like, my mum couldn't talk about that stuff like that. It's probably why she put us through shit as kids. Bit of dark humor. But I think it's we're at a point where we do feel safe about it, and we feel safe enough voicing these, because even about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know, if I stood up for myself, I'm crazy. But if I don't say anything at all because that was the other option, things will continue happening.
Yeah.
And as somebody with that original programming that I've worked so hard to undo, you kind of find it which one, you kind of think about it like which one's going to be a bigger fire to deal with. Yep. Right? So I can either stand up for myself and have this be a huge explosion of things that I will then have to deal with, or I can just shut up and it's easier to manage. But not to say that standing up for myself or for whatever reason that is, that reason didn't warrant either of those reactions.
Yep.
It should have just been cool up here and being able to talk about it or talk through it, or just, I don't have the capacity for it right now. Can we touch base on that later? Rather than just being completely like exploded upon. And I think we kind of, women, speaking from my experience and a lot of women in the industry I know and outside of the industry, is we learned to mask a lot of that, and we learned to get so good at this fine tune. And like even in corporate industry, like my background is working in construction, mining, property development, stuff like that. So very, very quite male-dominated industries. And I'm not saying at any point that I haven't had any good experience. I've had great experiences. I've had wonderful people that are male or male identifying that have been absolutely lovely to me. But there's definitely a percentage where you just assume the minute you wake up, cool, I'm going to be spoken to like this, and this is what I'm going to do and how I'm going to navigate my day. And I think finally we've just had enough, and people are being called out, and I'm really happy about that. But also at the same time, we still have to have that fine line of like, we're speaking out, but also at the same time make sure that we don't do damage that we can't repair by calling out the wrong person. So there's this fine line, you know what I mean? When I say calling out the wrong person, there's the gatekeepers and stuff like that. Yeah. So there is a fine line where we are unlearning a lot of old things, and I'm glad we're talking about it. And there's a lot of wonderful female identifying bands out there and musicians that are talking about stuff.
So, I mean, misogyny is going to be a long time before it's properly weeded out of the music industry, because it's heavily embedded. But do you honestly think we're seeing a positive change, particularly in the Australian industry right now?
100%.
I love hearing
things that I'm 100%. Like, I think we're heading in the right direction. And a big thing that has been, and a lot of women in the industry that I've noticed, is there's no longer like, people are starting to forget that by the time you hit 30, that's it. You know, that's not how it works. And especially for women, like you're expired now. So now it's really great to see women in their 30s rocking out and like being epic musicians and creating, giving the next generation a bit of hope, and hopefully undoing a lot of this programming that we grew up with. Just be like, nah, it's fine. Like, as long as you're happy doing it, that's all that matters. Yeah. So I definitely think we're heading in the right direction for sure. And like, I'm very optimistic about it. I'm so glad I get to do it now.
Because I'm speaking to someone in their fucking 40s. Ageism is still
Well, you look like 32 tops.
Mate, I just celebrated my eldest daughter's 22nd birthday yesterday.
So happy birthday to your daughter. How lovely.
Yeah, but yeah, ageism is a thing that I've come across quite heavily. I mean, even like I do have the benefit of being a white male and everything, but it's still we have a main broadcaster in Australia that basically is heavily youth focused, and there's as soon as you hit that fucking mark of like 25, basically you're too old, and then you're relegated to this other shit. I am seeing a shift a little bit, and it's very cool, but the same shit doesn't ever happen anywhere else in the world. It's only this country, which is weird. So you got a plus side of like the whole thing with the misogyny's being weeded out, and that's great. And we're seeing so many female fronted acts, or just female acts in total, coming through and just absolutely smashing it. But you still have this issue, like you were saying, with the ageism barrier. But however, I know the Arias are on tonight, and fingers crossed Kylie Minogue fucking wins that shit, because
I mean, who doesn't love Kylie Minogue? Let's be honest.
Apparently Gen Z don't know who the fuck she is. I'm sorry, Gen Z, but you should get a fucking clue, man, because Kylie Minogue is the fucking tits. She's amazing, and I've seen her live, and she's fucking incredible.
Yeah, hell yeah, I love her.
So I think there's a few barriers to get across, but we are getting there, basically. Holy shit, we hit the half-hour mark.
Music's the... Yeah, I was so good at talking. Music is the only form of art that has that age barrier. You wouldn't say that to a visual artist.
Yeah, no, but movies is even worse.
Acting, music and acting, you're 100% right. You wouldn't say that to a visual artist.
No.
Or you wouldn't say that to a graphic designer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think we are getting to the right place. Like Courtney from Spirit Box.
Oh, yeah.
Rocking in her 30s. I love it. It's so good to see.
Leading the fucking charge, that thing. And Spirit Box has come, I know they've worked hard, but they've seemingly come out of nowhere, basically, and just to fucking dominate. But there's equivalent acts in Australia that are actually doing it. So, I mean, we're killing it. You're killing it.
We're killing it.
You're killing it.
Thank you. Back at you.
We're gonna wrap things up here, because we were fucking all over the place here. Mish, hang on the line there. I'll have a bit of a debrief, and you got to give me some therapy on the way out, basically. But everyone else, you do need to check out Martyr, which is Torizon's latest single. And when you reckon the EP will be ready for unleashing?
Definitely. So these two are standalone singles. The EP will have its own little storyline and release, and we're recording it at the start of next year. So it should be done, hopefully, everything ready for release at least in September, October next year.
Oh, so basically a whole fucking year. Thanks, Mish.
Yeah, dogs. Should be exy, man.
All right. You hang on the line there. Everyone else, we're out of here. Adios. Whew. Amazing chat. A big shout out to Mish from Torizon for that one there. That got me. I hope you really enjoyed that podcast. Because do check out Martyr. Great track from Torizon. They've actually got a very, very slick discography. And they do have a show announcement coming up soon, just after this podcast. So keep an eye for that too if you're in Brisbane. Apart from that, I think we've only got one or two more podcasts sort of scheduled for the rest of the year, and then I'll be into doing the pointies. If you haven't seen that before, it's the top 50 countdown that I do. So stay alert for that. As always, thank you for supporting local music, live music, Australian music, all sorts of music. You guys are legends. Mwah.